Hello and welcome to a new venue in the annals of Ferrari Challenge Japan history. For the first time, we are visiting the mobility resort Motegi, a new destination, a compelling destination, one feels, for this upcoming set of races. We've got race 1 on the grid right now for the Copa Shell AM division. And then shortly thereafter, we will be bringing you the first race action for Copa Shell, Trofeo Pirelli AM, and Trofeo Pirelli. A total of 32 cars set to be in the paddock this weekend. And that means that once again, we are splitting the grids between the divisions and putting the spotlight on Copa Shell AM in the first race of the day. The spotlight in particular on those, of course, at the sharp end of the field. But early drama on the way to the grid. Michito Hirota, the 116 car that was due to start on the outside of the front row in P2, has had an incident on the way to the grid. So the 116 car has spun off on the outlap towards the grid, coming out of the pits on cold tyres. I'll have to see if the car has made it to the grid. I haven't got eyes on the 116 yet, but already a big development in this race. So very compelling scenes to begin the weekend and begin Ferrari Challenge Japan here at the mobility resort Motegi, of course, formerly known, possibly most famously known previously as the Twin Ring Motegi. You may have seen the news in recent weeks that the former oval that used to play host to IndyCar and NASCAR racing is unfortunately not going to be there much longer. They are going to repurpose it into grassy spectator areas, so the landscape of this facility will change in the next few months or so. But what a treat it is to be looking at a new venue, and one with quite so many braking zones that I think are going to lend themselves to some very exciting overtaking. No fewer than 14 corners total. We get a look at the grid and we can see there is no one there on the front row on the driver's left-hand side. So Michito Hirota has had an off. I was told he'd had a crash, so I think he may have collided with a barrier, and indeed not yet, at least, on the grid. If the 116 car ends up a non-starter from the front row, Michito Hirota, I'm sure, will be bitterly disappointed. Hirota, who finished 6th and 10th in the Shell AM races at Okayama, and of course is only a couple of meetings into his tenure with the Ferrari 296 Challenge, having raced the 488 Challenge Evo in last year's Ferrari Challenge Japan. This was his best opportunity yet to be at the front of the field in this category. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's quite going to pan out on this occasion, but hopefully he can bounce back for race 2 on Sunday for the Copa Shell AM division. Getting a look down the grid here, the driver that will start this one on pole is Kento Inami aboard the 137 car. That is the Yanatse Fiorano Merturi entry, who has yet to register a top 10 finish in terms of standalone races this year. Of course, to start the season in Suzuka, all 4 divisions of Ferrari Challenge Japan were together on the same grid. So he has achieved a Copa Shell AM top 10 within those races, but he is yet to do so in an actual race scenario get a top 10 finish on the board. In the standalone Copa Shell AM races at Okayama, he was 15th and 12th. So starting on pole position presents a big opportunity and seemingly a big upswing in terms of form. Is this going to be a look at what happened then to Michito Hirota? No, this is a look at qualifying. 196 car was quick in the session. Tak Shaw at the wheel of the 196. We had a couple of off-track excursions, as one may expect. The 122 car having an off, Asuki Ozaki, as well as the 159 machine, which is Bamboo Maeda. You can see some of those curves that you are encouraged by your driver coach to try and take to lose or to gain some lap time. But they can catch you out, as we have seen a few times. Just get it slightly wrong and nip the inside wheel with it a little bit, and it can unsettle you coming out of that last corner in particular. But as we've already alluded to here, the driver of the 116 absolutely nailed it. Michito Hirota with by far, or rather, sorry, Michito Hirota nailed it for the front row of the grid, but the one who was fastest of anybody was Kento Inami, who we see here from pole position. Both drivers were very quick in quali. They were the only two to beat a 1 minute 52, both of them in the 151 lap time bracket. Unfortunately, though, only one of them has made it to pre-grid ahead of the race start, and that is Inami. Row 2 of the grid then will effectively be promoted to second and third on the grid if Hirota is to not take the start. That will be Tak Shaw in the 196 car and the 154 of Koji Yamamoto. So those two with a golden opportunity. Look at the temperatures for this morning. It's a little bit cooler at 17 degrees Celsius. As you can see, not sunshine beating down on the circuit right now, but there has been a lot of sunshine earlier in the day, as we saw in qualifying, and that is why our track temperature is nearly at 40 degrees still. Humidity at 63% and fairly still from a winds perspective, so they shouldn't have to worry too much about headwinds and tailwinds into any of these corners. I've alluded to the fact that there's plenty of overtaking opportunities to have here. Of course, a fairly long run to the first corner, which is, I think, probably a third gear turn, maybe low rev fourth gear if you want to get traction out of the corner. Another fairly long straight, almost the same length as the main straight going into turn 3, and then another straight of about the same length going to turn 5, which is also a very tight corner. Perhaps the best overtaking opportunity of all, though, is going down the spare pit lane, the B pit lane, which is down into turn 11. As you can see what I was talking about there, the main straight, the run from turns 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, all much of a muchness from a length perspective, but all very deep braking zones. You've got the hairpin at turn 10, which could be an opportunity for an overtake, but I think turn 11 is the one that invites the most ambitious moves. Of course, you drop downhill on the way into turn 11, and that can slightly shift the braking zone, I think, a little bit. Sometimes it's one of those corner profiles that suggests a level of bravery that perhaps you can't quite handle per the laws of physics. It reminds me a lot, actually, of turn 1 at Estoril, dropping down about 2/3 of the way down the straight, and then a very tight corner that maybe encourages you to be rather more brave than your actual brake pedal will allow you to be. The Ferrari 849 Testarossa safety car at the front of the field. The mechanics scurrying away from their drivers and their vehicles. So we are just a few moments away from rolling here on the formation lap here at the Mobility Resort Motegi, a new destination for Ferrari Challenge Japan. A destination, of course, steeped in Japanese motorsport heritage, a unique heritage at that. We've alluded to the now former oval that sits around this circuit. where the IndyCars and NASCARs raced in period. Of course, this is also the home of the Japanese Motorcycle Grand Prix, so it is one of the premier venues in Japanese motorsport and a very worthy addition to the repertoire of Ferrari Challenge Japan. We are off and underway on the formation lap then. A compelling 30 minutes plus 1 lap in prospect here. Kento Inami at heights that we have not seen him before on pole position. Yoshito Hirota's absence means that Tak Shaw, Koji Yamamoto and co can all challenge coming into this weekend. We'll talk about the point standings in just a moment. Here is the grid. Kento Inami then alone with Hirota absent from the front row of the grid. That's the big headline, certainly. Tak Shaw from 3rd position. Koji Yamamoto is next in 4th position. In 5th place is Bamboo Maeda with Michael Ung, the Hong Kong-based driver, in 6th position. Jay, the rock star himself, in 7th place, along with Yasuhito Fukui in 8th position. Yoshifumi Komatsu and Yamamoto Yamaguchi rounding out the top 10 on the order. Row 6 of the grid, Hirotaka Nishida alongside Tetsuo Matsumoto. Row 7 will be Shichui Koga and Asuki Ozaki. The back row of the grid to be occupied by John Leo and Leong Hinglun Rudolph, the Australian/Singaporean driver, or rather Australian/Hong Kong driver, excuse me. There's a nice quota of entries here, as always, in the Shell AM division, which is always the most numerous group here in Ferrari Challenge Japan. We've got increased numbers as well across Copa Shell, Trofeo Pirelli AM and Trofeo Pirelli, the 3 faster divisions of Ferrari Challenge Japan driver, and that in part is thanks to some drivers being promoted, as it were, and we'll talk a bit about that, of course, a little bit later on. But certainly a lot of reasons to keep your eyes on this one. Coming out of Okayama, the championship standings in Copa Shell AM were pretty close. Liang Chenyu on the top with 42 points so far this season, but after a double win weekend for Yi Hang Tan, he was on 36, Katsuya Hirata on 33 coming into this weekend. So Liang Chenyu comes into this one as the points leader, but he has been promoted. He is one of the drivers that has been promoted, so there really is an opportunity here to move up the field and up the ranks in Copa Shell AM. Here comes the start. So then the cars make their way through the final sequence of corners. And it will be all alone on the front row, albeit with a very, very large gap to the rest of the field. All alone at the front, it will be Inami. The red lights go out. We are underway there. I think that Kento Inami had to hold on there so everyone else could catch up with him. And one driver that's been swallowed up by all of that is Tak Shaw. Tak Shaw has lost out there to Bamboo Maeda. I think Maeda is going for 3rd, maybe even 2nd place as they run down to the first corner, but it is still pole sitter Kento Inami in the lead. Yamamoto in 2nd, but Bamboo Maeda trying to go around the outside for 2nd place there. The rest of the field make their way through. Certainly not quite the start that was desired from Tak Shaw. Started a de facto 2nd place. He runs a fairly distant 4th. The top 3 have broken away in the early stages here. Again, lap times in qualifying in the 151s, at least for Kento Inami. We'll see what kind of race pace they settle into here, but it looks to me like the most confident driver out of the gates is Koji Yamamoto in second place. You can see that he's using a bit more of the runoff, a bit more of the curbing. Kento Inami just, we saw several car lengths clear at the pack. He kind of backed into Tackshaw as they approached the start gantry. I think Tackshaw was a bit more focused on what was going on ahead of him. There was still quite a big gap between Inami and the field as the race start got underway. But usually it's the leader that controls the field, so the responsibility was on everyone else to catch up to Kento Inami. Either way, quite clearly, the big profiteer was Yamamoto. The big loser in all of that was Tackshaw in fourth place. He's there just ahead of Jay in the white and red car. Kamatsu, Fukui, Koga, and John Leo rounding out the top 10. John Leo, the biggest mover, 5 spots up on the first lap. That is a very good start from John Leo in the 108 car. You see Hirota at the bottom of the standings, not taking the start. That's going to be a painful, I think, stewing process after that error before coming to the grid. We have a situation now where Bamboo Maeda has dropped away from Yamamoto, was 3.4 seconds behind Yamamoto at the first sector split, and is falling into the clutches then of Tackshaw and indeed Jay, who's giving chase from 5th position. So after a flying start, Bamboo Maeda settling into a race pace that might mean he has to fight quite hard here for 3rd position. They head towards the hairpin at turn 10, past the alternate pits here at the Mobility Resort Motegi. One of a fairly short list of circuits out there with 2 full-scale international spec pit lanes to choose from. Bamboo Maeda going a little bit defensive there into turn 11 as they head under the bridge. Certainly, he is focusing entirely on what's going on behind him. And it's creating a bit of a queue. Inami has broke the beam to complete his first race pace lap, and it was a 1:53.680. Yamamoto was fractionally quicker. He remains just a second off the rear bumper of Inami's Ferrari 296 Challenge car. You can see the straight line speed out of these slower corners. 690 brake horsepower, 700 horsepower engine, dehybridized 3-litre V6. It really does fly down the straights. And that, of course, with more straight line speed comes a longer braking zone as well, and that means plenty of opportunity to try and get something done as you slow the car down for the next corner. With the CCMR extremely advanced carbon brakes, run on a fly-by-wire system, is the most advanced Ferrari 296 Challenge car, or the most advanced Ferrari Challenge car of all time in the series over 30-year history. It's also comfortably the quickest, the most powerful, highest downforce, one of the most advanced GT cars on the market, and we always see it utilized well here in Ferrari Challenge Japan by these drivers. Get some great racing, and I get the feeling we're going to have some overtakes before long. Bamboo Maeda feeling the pressure from Tackshaw. They circulate the 14th and final corner of the lap. He's not going to want to do 24 minutes under this much pressure, but if it's what it needs to get him onto the podium, he'll give it his best shot. You see the top two there have spread out slightly. Fastest lap of the race from Inami last time by, put his gap up to 1.6 seconds at the front. As we see a move there, a speculative move for third position. What one might call low percentage there. Tackshaw from quite a way back, trying to look to the inside. Can't get it done on this occasion. Everyone from third down to ninth is effectively in a queue here, and I think that's giving Tackshaw a bit of the hurry up. He wants to try and make this move as soon as he can. But of course, with Jay and Michael Ung directly behind him, he doesn't want to try and make a move and end up costing himself time as a result. Tackshaw, who was a race winner last year in Copa Shell AM, got his first top 5 finish of the season last time out in Okayama race 2. Top two have an almighty gap between themselves and the rest of the field. Bamboo Maeda going defensive again into turn 11. He certainly agrees, I think, with my hypothesis that that is the corner to watch out for, but I don't think that Tackshaw has really been close enough to mount a challenge there yet. He could well be close enough, though, into turn 1, and in turn, Jay looks supremely close to the rear of him. That red and white car looking menacing. A bit deep into the corner there from Fukui in 8th place, and Koga watches on with interest. Shuichi Koga, who debuted last year in Ferrari Challenge Japan with a one-off outing at Fuji. Good to see him for the first time this season. Hopefully we get to see some more of him before the season is out. Of course, we've got 2 events left to go after this weekend at Fuji, and then a return trip to Suzuka. Side by side, further back here, I think that's Yamaguchi getting past Rudolph. Oh, and a look to the inside there from Rudolph. Couldn't quite get that done. In fact, was that Yamaguchi losing back out to Rudolph? There's a lot of shifting going on there just outside the top 10. You see there the 1-2-2 car. That is Asuki Ozaki. And to the inside there, quite a uncompromising move, I'd say that was. That was Matsumoto getting past Nishida for P14. Tetsuo Matsumoto yet to claim a Copa Shell AM podium, and outside the top 10, that doesn't look likely for this race, but he could yet match his best finish of the season, which was a P10 at Okayama in the first race of the weekend. Getting a look back here at the big dive from the driver at the 170. A lot of confidence on display there for the driver representing the Cornes Osaka dealer group. Bamboo Maeda remains in third position, some 11 seconds back now from Yamamoto in P2. The gap between the top two continues to extend. Inami almost 3 seconds clear now at the front. Meanwhile, in the background, it looked like Fukui once again under pressure from Koga. Now Inami, no, I think the timing screen has just momentarily had a moment there. Sector 2 stopped, it said, for Inami and Yamamoto at the front, but I think that is false. Yes, the timing just having a little bit of a moment, and Tackshaw to the inside of Bamboo Maeda. Then he'll have the outside for the turn 10 hairpin unless he can switch back. A little bit of rubbing between them, and just fractionally Maeda holds on to that third position. Jay was under threat from Komatsu behind as well. Not a great run out of the turn there from Tackshaw. So Bamboo Maeda will remain in third place for now, and a statement of intent there. He is going to fight tooth and nail for that position. Worth 10 points in the championship, of course, a third place finish. It's 15 for a win, 12 for second place. So if you want a nice double-digit point score, you need to be on the podium. With this race, the end of this race marking mid-season, race 5 of 10 in the championship, they will be thinking about the championship permutations, most certainly. Maeda, who only has 10 points to his name all season so far, could double his earnings with this result. And it was a solid attempt there from Tackshaw. We saw some carbon fibre flying as well as they ever so slightly glanced off each other on the run to the turn 10 braking zone. Can Tackshaw make this work? Looks like he brakes a lot less there into this S-bend section, carrying a lot more apex speed. But I think Bamboo Maeda squaring it off and getting a slightly better exit from the corner. Tackshaw running it deep there into turn 9. They head through the hairpin once again. It's lap 7 of the race ongoing. Already knocking on the door of half of the time distance. And Maeda has been under pressure pretty much from the word go. Inami, meanwhile, controlling things at the front, extending that gap more and more. Remember, it was out at almost exactly 1 second at the end of the first lap. It's now 4.2. It's a long old wait to see Bamboo Maeda come across the line in third place. Can he withstand all of that pressure from behind? No movement, seemingly, between these drivers in the pack, giving immediate chase to the third place battle. Second time that we've seen Fukui run a bit wide there at turn 1. Oh, we've got a car off the circuit. We have a spinner, and that's Ozaki, I believe. Yeah, that is the 1-2-2 car of Ozaki. We're going to get a look now at how that one happened. Oh, he was carrying a lot more speed than the Shida ahead of him, and just tried to avoid making contact with the rear of his rival. And in doing so, unfortunately, found himself into the gravel trap, and the safety car has been deployed. And that is a huge loss for Inami and for Yamamoto, who were both acres ahead of their competition. It resets everything. Bamboo Maeda was already being nipped at, so I don't think it really makes much difference to him. If anything, for Maeda, I think it's a net benefit. He'll be closer to the top 2, but moreover, he gets a couple of laps here to regroup effectively. He has been under all sorts of scrutiny since this race started. I think this safety car may represent a much needed reprieve. So just over halfway through the race, with +1 lap, of course, once the clock hits 0. Your order as of the safety car coming out is Inami in the all-important race lead. Yamamoto in second, Bamboo Maeda in third place, Takshaw in fourth, Jay in fifth position, Michael Ung in sixth, the first of the Nicole Competizione drivers ahead of his stablemate from that team, that being Komatsu. Yoshifumi Komatsu aboard the 1-2-3 car. That's taking us down to seventh place. Fukui in eighth, Koga in ninth, and then the Australian flagged driver Leung Hinglun Rudolph rounding out the top 10 after a lightning fast launch for the race. Of course, when you see quite that much of an advantage or that much time gained coming off a rolling start, you do wonder if it's too good to be true, but there's been no indication of any jump starts anywhere in the field, so I think Rudolph just had an exceedingly good first lap of the race. The fastest lap of the race currently belongs to Inami, a 1:52.934. Inami, who comes into this weekend ninth in the point standings on 9 points. As it stands, is going to claim a full haul of 15. He'll have already claimed the pole position point, and right now he's got claim to the fastest lap point as well. So he will more than double his season efforts so far with this result if he can hold on. We're going to have an additional lap here behind the safety car, and then I'm sure Yamamoto will be trying his best to latch on to the rear wing of Inami's car. The crew at turn 14, as we just saw in the back of shot, have already pulled the 1-2-2 car to relative safety, and it should be behind the barrier in just a few seconds, so I think it will be just the 2 laps behind safety car before we return to racing action here at the Mobility Resort Motegi. First Ferrari Challenge Japan race to be held at this venue. Of course, immediately following this race, there will be a small intermission in the broadcast, but we will remain live before the Copa Shell, Trofeo Pirelli AM and Trofeo Pirelli race. And no, you're not hallucinating. That pickup truck has tracks. I think realistically, that's what the circuits in the UK are missing. 10.5 minutes left to go. We'll have somewhere around 9 minutes of racing plus 1 lap once the cars come to take the restart, which I think they should do this time. We haven't had a safety car in this lap bulletin just yet. I think Asuki Ozaki is still just disconnecting himself fully from the car. You can see trying to part with the intercom system on the helmet, but appears to be struggling somewhat with that. It does look remarkably fiddly. Tell a phone, tell a friend, maybe cut the cord if all else fails. Let's hope that driver can be ushered to safety then in the next few seconds, so we can bring in the safety car this time. Of course, if he's still on the wrong side of the barriers, they will probably extend the safety car for an extra lap here. the driver of the Ferrari 849 Testarossa won't mind. He'll do laps all day if that's what he's told to do. But given the safety car is also utilised typically during these weekends to do some thrill-seeking passenger laps and the like, the safety car driver does stay quite busy over the course of the weekend, so I'm sure he'll get his share of laps. Hopefully that light bar will shut off, but as they come towards turn 11, I think we're likely due a further lap then under safety car conditions. Indeed, the safety car has continued on by the pit exit, so pit entry, I should say. So they continue around for one more lap. Oh, we've had a moment under safety car by the looks of it. Was that Koga in the 135? I think it was, yes. And you can see there, it looks like perhaps the radiator has been punctured in whatever has happened to Shuichi Koga. There's a little bit of fluid down there just to the driver's right, or in picture just to the left of the curb there in the braking zone for turn 11. Which suggests to me that the radiator may have come stuck in that one. Do we have another car running around with damage? It doesn't look like it to me. Perhaps under braking just found the barrier rather than another car. But either way, that is suboptimal. The bulletin reads oil on track at turn 11 on the racing line. And certainly we have seen fluid down there. So all the more for the marshals to spring into action and do here. And I dare suggest, certainly with that fluid being on the racing line, that they're going to have to get some treatment onto the surface before they go racing again. So I have my reservations about the chances of the safety car coming in this time. Inami continues to lead the field around then, but Koga, who was running well within the top 10 at the back of that leading queue, or rather that queue from 3rd down to 9th place as it was, has lost out and indeed promoted up to 9th is Leon Hinglen-Rudolph. Is there anyone working there on the racing line? There is not. There you can see the fluid down at turn 11. Indeed, the stranded car of Koga, the 135 entry from the Ideal dealership. The scenario playing out here, certainly less than ideal. Of course, we make reference to the dealerships. They effectively take the place of conventional racing teams in this series. The cars are centrally run and the drivers represent their dealerships across all 4 divisions. And it is currently Cornesh Shiba running away with the standings. 105.5 points, the total for Cornesh Shiba so far this season. Rosso Scuderia next on 67 points, so an almost 40-point deficit, 38.5 exactly, between Shiba in the points lead and Rosso Scuderia in second. Cornesh Nagoya, Cornesh Osaka, and Auto Cavallino rounding out the top 5 in the standings. as it pertains to the Copa dealer. Always good to see those dealer partners represented on the circuit, and of course we'll have more of that later in the day, as we'll also have action from Ferrari Challenge UK later on at Silverstone. We invite you to take in all of the action from the Ferrari Challenge globally this weekend. Three and a half minutes then left on the clock, and no indication of safety car in this lap either. Certainly running low on time here. I think for Inami, he won't be too worried about simply idling around. I think the driver with the most relief of all, though, is Bambu Maeda, who was not granted a moment of peace in the early laps of the race. If he is given the option to nurse it around for that third position he so sorely wants, I think he would personally say yes. All of these drivers, of course, want to push their car to the limit to feel the sensation and the thrill of racing these cars, but sometimes your sensible head says, actually, if the one with the light bar wants to stay on the road, I'm not too concerned about that. Oh, and we've got another driver struggling. That's the 119 car of Hirotaka Nishida. Thankfully, finds himself a nice place to park. Well, almost finds himself a nice place to park. I thought he might be able to get a little further clear of the racing surface than that. But the 119 car has come to a halt, frankly, only just to the inside of the braking zone for turn 10. And if that car hasn't got any steam to move away, I don't think it's in a safe position, and that might sign and seal the race effectively. I don't think they'd put the race back to green with a car in that position. I think potentially that looks like the left rear down on that car. So if it is quote-unquote only a puncture, perhaps he can move slightly further away. But regardless, we're only just now seeing some work to get cement dust down on the surface. In theory, then, we're on the penultimate lap of the race. The cars have crossed the line behind safety car. Another very cool service vehicle, incidentally. Here at the Motegi Mobility Resort. Although if I were the marshal given a bicycle rather than a pickup truck with a bit of a tank arrangement, I think I'd have thoughts about that. Safety car coming in this lap, says the bulletin. So perhaps they do think that Nishida's car is far enough away. Certainly race control will have taken a long, hard look at that. And it is great news for us, because it means that we will be imminently going back to racing. So it looks like that course car will tow away the 119. And with with the clock having hit 0, but with +1 lap, it is going to be a 1-lap shootout here. This is going to be very compelling. Can Inami hold on at the front? What about Yamamoto? Has he got a challenge in him? Can Bamboo Maeda hold on to the podium finish that he has fought so hard to preserve to this point? We've got one rotation of Motegi between us and the checkered flag. The green flag has waved now at the gantry. We are back to racing speeds, and it's a good run out of the final corner from the 154 in second place. To the inside goes Tackshaw there for third. He's not quite close enough to make that work. All but off wide. Wide there was the race leader. We've had a change of lead. Inami's run it wide at turn 1 and 2. And Yamamoto has inherited the race lead. I think that Inami had perhaps settled into the idea of not going back to racing and let his tyres cool down. We saw Tackshaw there just on the grass trying to find room on the inside of Bamboo Maeda. Maeda will be watching with interest as he sees Tackshaw run wide, and now Jay is on the offensive against him. That could play out well for Bamboo Maeda, who for the first time pretty much all race has several car lengths in his favour. Can Inami try and claim this lead back? He's led every lap of the race. Koji Yamamoto has taken the lead at the most opportune of moments. Now they have to remember it's going to be slippery under braking into turn 11. The track staff have done all they can to ease the danger, but they're still going to have some, I think, lateral movement perhaps under braking here into turn 11. Yamamoto and Inami head through turn 11 for the final time in this motor race. Maeda looks like he's going to hold on to P3 as well, but at the front of the field, on the very last lap of the race, Koji Yamamoto will claim his first ever win in Ferrari Challenge Japan. The lights flash on the 154. The driver in his first season in this series will cross the line with delight on his face. Inami and Maeda round out the podium. 2 out of 3 will be delighted. But I think for the 137, for Kento Inami, that what if is going to dominate his thoughts this evening. Just ran it wide through turns 1 and 2, left the door beckoning for Yamamoto, who did not need to be asked a second time. And as a result, the driver representing the Corner Shiba dealership, the 154 Koji Yamamoto, is a Ferrari Challenge Japan race winner. Let's take a look again at turn 1, and yeah, just very, very late on the brakes and trying to rotate the car while braking was the 137 Kento Inami. And of course, yes, you can do that to an extent. You can move the car a bit under braking, but when you're trying to slow it down while turning in, often you can't turn in or slow down properly when you're trying to do both at once, and that's what happened to Inami there. What a shame for him, had led every lap of the race up to that point. A dramatic conclusion, quite the crescendo for those of you that waited through that safety car. The next race, which will be starting in almost exactly an hour's time from now for Copa Shell, Trofeo Pirelli AM and Trofeo Pirelli, I think they've got quite an act to live up to. Before the safety car came out, we had some really compelling fighting on that circuit. Koji Yamamoto, incidentally, I think, looking at the Copa Shell AM standings, he will be the effective new leader in the points. Liang Chen-yu and Yi Hung-tan have both been promoted out of Copa Shell AM. And Yamamoto, who sits 6th in the standings coming into today, will be up to 38 points, and I think that will make him the de facto championship leader in Copa Shell AM. So a big swing, a big result. Certainly the established order here in Copa Shell AM has shifted a bit between the driver promotions, and I think also just the phenomenon of the results and potential shifting at a new circuit. But let's listen in as Koji Yamamoto celebrates with his team. This is going to be a happy man. You can see the beaming smile through the helmet for Koji Yamamoto. Conversation over by the 137 car. Kento Inami is going to be a lot more consolatory, unfortunately. That one slight error proving costly, but still he has more than doubled his point score so far this season, so Inami can come out of this one with a lot of positives to take away, knowing that he's got the form and he's got the speed to fight for victories here in Shell AM for the rest of the season. Copa Shell AM is the effective starting point for the novice drivers, some of the slightly older drivers in some cases. And in a lot of cases, they're learning the ropes, they're taking in the early stages of a racing career and figuring out the what to do's and the what not to do's as Alex Fox walks over with his rather distinctive race suit. Of course, last year's Copa Shell AM champion is Alex Fox, and by dint of that success was promoted into Copa Shell for this year, and he's got a bit more competition in Copa Shell waiting for him. The team's hard at work then to prepare for the next races. In some cases, I'm sure several of the mechanics will be working on multiple cars here across the two grids. As I alluded to, a little under an hour until our next race. So not a huge turnaround period, as it were, with the start for that race coming at 2:30 local time here in Japan. Celebrations afoot for the top three. Of course, they will head to the podium for their celebrations. Ooh, we've had someone, oh no, drop all of their paperwork.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome the winner of the Shell AM race, Mr. Koji Yamamoto. Yamamoto 選手、大逆転勝利でした。おめでとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
So the race was pretty much going to, we all thought that was going to close with a safety car, but the race director actually made the call to do a one-lap race. なんとね、最後、もしかしたらセーフティーカーでレースが終わるかなという、予想の中、レースダイレクターがなんと一周のレースということで大逆転の、勝利、1コーナーでの素晴らしいオーバーテイクでしたね。
ありがとうございます。実はちょっと狙ってました。
稲見選手もね、1位からずっとリードしてて、まあ素晴らしいラインでオーバーテイクとなりました。It's your first victory this year in the Shell AM category. How do you feel?
いや本当に稲見選手もラップタイムじゃ多分全然追いつかないレベルだったんで、まあ、本当に最後1周で終わってラッキーだったと思います。あと5周ぐらいあったら追いつかれてると思いますんで。
Yeah, definitely. He says that Inami-san was very, very fast throughout the whole race. It was hard to catch him, but then he had the chance for the first turn. And actually, he aimed for it, so it was an amazing overtake. Congratulations to you again. And any comments for tomorrow's race? 明日のレースに向けての意気込みをお願いします。
そうですね。明日も同じように冷静に、レースを終われる。そして結果として、まあ、表彰台に立てればいいかなというふうに思ってます。明日も皆さんよろしくお願いします。
Thank you very much. He says tomorrow's race, he's going to keep cool, stay cool, and then aim for another victory. Thank you very much. おめでとうございます。
ありがとうございました。
And back to you.
Well, thank you very much, Kai Cozzolino. Down once again in the scrutineering area to catch our race winners. And really exciting to hear the immediate reactions and indeed see that big smile on the face. A new race winner then in Ferrari Challenge Japan in the form of Koji Yamamoto. The Cornish Shiba driver, one of many on this grid represented or representing that dealership group. I believe they've once again got 9 cars collectively across both grids for this weekend. And certainly at least one P1 trophy can go on display either on Koji Yamamoto's mantle or perhaps, just for a little while at least, a lending to show it off in the dealership itself. Of course, the podium celebrations await Yamamoto and co. After a very exciting Copa Shell AM race here in Ferrari Challenge Japan. That mid-race safety car maybe helped out some. I think Bambu Maeda would have struggled to keep the tyres in the optimal operating range while defending that hard from those behind him. That safety car, I think, proved to be a benefit to his effort to retain the podium place. Of course, those Pirelli P0 tyres, a 2025 spec rubber, was rolled out last year for Ferrari Challenge cars, and very impressive rubber it is. Indeed, particularly with the wet tyre, a big leap in the last year or so with the Pirelli tyre performance. The Italian marque always striving to find gains and improvements on the circuit. And of course, an almighty data pool to work from with the number of GT championships that they supply globally. All of the Ferrari Challenge categories, of course. Not to mention the small matter of being the official supplier of Formula One now for 15 years. The drivers will be hopefully due a celebration here in the next couple of minutes. Good to see a few keen fans here today. I'm sure even more will make it out for Sunday here at the Mobility Resort Motegi. A lot of two-wheeled enthusiasts, of course, call this place home. The drivers then are near the podium, and we are ready for our presentation. Bamboo Maeda is on the third step then of the podium. The 159 driver. That's his best result of the season. The 137 driver, Kento Inami for Yanase Fiorano Motegi. Good to see a smile on his face, in good spirits after losing out on the final lap to this man, Koji Yamamoto for Cornet Shiba, our overall race winner here in the Copa Shell AM division. You could really see what that meant to Koji Yamamoto as the national anthem played for him here at Motegi. Time then for our trophy presentations. And Bamboo Maeda celebrating away with his P3 trophy. Kento Inami settling for second today, but had really good race pace. He'll be aiming for a win on Sunday. But Koji Yamamoto, for the first time in his fledgling Ferrari Challenge Japan career, is standing on that top step. And that is Yasuhito Fukui receiving the subclass trophy as well. Hence the 4 drivers total. And so we celebrate with the pictures, and then it'll be the champagne showers. For the first time in Ferrari Challenge Japan here at Motegi, some banter between Yamamoto and Bamboo Maeda. All of them enthusiasts, all of them pretty much to a one here in this paddock are collectors and a huge part of the vibrant and extensive community that Ferrari has here in Japan. So even though a lot of them are quite new to the racing paddock, I've no doubt that a lot of them have known each other for several years at Ferrari events, particularly people like Yamamoto and Maeda, who are both customers of and representatives of the same Cornish Shiba dealership. Is it a disadvantage when 2 out of 3 drivers have some eye protection when the champagne sprays? So then the podium ceremony is complete. I think we'll get a chance to look at the results, look at some highlights of that race in Ferrari Challenge Japan. What a race it was. What a day it will be for Koji Yamamoto. Big smiles, I'm sure, from him. The top 3 will celebrate. Of course, they don't have to worry about going racing again today, but we've got more racing yet to come. In 45 minutes' time, the Copa Shell, Trofeo Pirelli AM and Trofeo Pirelli grids will head onto the course. The crews pushing the cars away. Of course, they'll check everything and make sure that they're ready to go again. Let's take a look back then at some race highlights. Kento Inami alone on the front row of the grid after Michito Hirota had an issue on the formation lap. Koji Yamamoto jumping up from the second row to second place as the race got started. Further back in the field, some scrapping there. Leon Hinglund Rudolph making up some places. And while they fought for the lower positions here outside of the top 10, there was also a lot to be said for what was going on from third place back. Bamboo Maeda was running an uncomfortable third position. That was the 170 car of Tetsuo Matsumoto moving up a position. Unfortunately, the 122 car, Asuki Ozaki, had an off-track excursion. Buried into the gravel, there was no choice but to deploy the safety car. And then there was an incident under safety car as well for Shuichi Koga, which delayed the process of getting the race started. We had 1 lap to go when we eventually did go racing, and immediately a mistake, unfortunately, for Kento Inami, wide at the first turns. And that passed the 154, the victory. Koji Yamamoto, for the first time, crosses the line to win in Ferrari Challenge Japan. And I'm sure that will live long in his memory. And he will be finding room on the mantle. Pride of place for that trophy. Yamamoto then winning the race by just half a second over Inami. Maeda, tack short, Jay, Michael Ung, Yoshifumi Komatsu, and Yasuhito Fukui, your top 8 in that race. Leon Hinlung Rudolph and Yamato Yamaguchi rounding out the top 10 ahead of John Leo, who dropped back a little towards the end. Matsumoto in 12th, Nishida 13th. And then Koga and Ozaki, unfortunately, not taking the finish. Michito Hirota not even taking the start, unfortunately. He'll be looking for better fortunes on Sunday here at the Mobility Resort Motegi. What a race it was from the competitors of Ferrari Challenge Japan. And we will see the next batch of cars out there for more racing action in about 40 minutes' time. We'll be staying live here around the world for you, so make sure you stay with us for more action. Welcome back to the Mobility Resort Motegi. In just a few moments' time, we go racing with the Trofeo Pirelli AM and Copa Shell divisions of Ferrari Challenge Japan. We've had a very exciting race in Copa Shell AM just a few moments prior. Now very excited to see what happens next here in the top three divisions of Ferrari Challenge Japan. A really compelling grid in prospect. The pole sitter for this race is going to be Akihiro Suzuki for Auto Speciale, the number 17, joined on the front row by a returning face, and a familiar face at that. Yusaku Maezawa aboard the number 83 car, the familiar red-striped white livery on the front row of the grid. Of course, he was in Ferrari Challenge Japan back in 2024 and is making his return to the series this weekend. It'll be his first time driving the Ferrari 296 Challenge. He is a Trofeo Pirelli entrant. Getting a look then at qualifying, Akihiro Suzuki was the first driver out onto the circuit, and he was immediately fast out there on the course. We saw him pushing to the limit in the Copa Shell AM race. The fastest times were 151s. Our front row of the grid achieving 149s in this race, or in this qualifying session, I should say. And the fastest lap of anybody actually came from this man. Motegi Isosaki set a 149.301. However, the 55 car dropping 3 places on the grid, courtesy of some technical infringements from Okayama that have been penalised. Therefore, starting in 4th position, despite setting a 149.301. But Maezawa, who's been racing for Ferrari, representing Ferrari in SRO Japan Cups, very, very quick. He's learnt a lot since we last saw him in Ferrari Challenge Japan, and certainly it is exciting to have him back on the grid. Maezawa, a household name effectively in Japan, of course, someone who has always been in the spotlight and has certainly drawn a lot of attention to his racing efforts over the last couple of years. There's Motegi Isosaki, who we saw at the conclusion of that package. All thumbs up at the time with his great pace that he showed here at Motegi, but he's got some work to do from 4th on the grid. He was the fastest in qualifying by just over 0.4 of a second, but with that 3-place grid drop, he has some work to do. Naorayu also received a grid drop, incidentally, so the 110 car starting a little further back than anticipated. Here is the layout then for the Mobility Resort Motegi. 14 corners, lots of straights into sharp bends. That's really the overarching theme of this layout. And that means that overtaking opportunities are plentiful. I think we're going to see a thriller here in the Trofeo Pirelli AM and Copa Shell divisions. Trofeo Pirelli is effectively the premier class among the drivers, and we've had a few drivers pushed up into Trofeo Pirelli for the first time. That includes Yamatatsu and Yasutaka Shirasaki. They've been both moved up into Trofeo Pirelli. They carry the points with them from their efforts in the season so far in their respective classes. But after winning a race overall last time out in Okayama, Shirasaki has been moved up. And certainly we will see how competitive he can be. I think it is certainly about time that we see him up in the top class, and I'm sure he will be a competitive force. Akihiro Suzuki, one of the most experienced drivers on the grid, leads them away then for this formation lap. Yusaku Maezawa, by comparison, not as experienced. It's his first time racing the 296 Challenge car. He's been familiarizing himself with the GT3 spec Ferrari 296 in recent years. The founder of the Japanese online retail company Start Today, now more commonly known as Zozo. Akihiro Suzuki alongside Yusaku Maezawa on the front row of the grid. Row 2 with the fastest man of the qualifying session featured, Kembo in third place, and Isosaki, who was the fastest in quali, starting from fourth of the grid drop. Kembo is incidentally the first of the Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers, hence the white background on him. Yamatatsu in fifth position, his first appearance in Trofeo Pirelli alongside Zed Falcon. Cold Max, who took an overall win last time in Okayama, he's seventh alongside Copa Shell pole sitter Yi Hang Tsun. In ninth place, Yukihisa Otsuki. He's joined by Yasutaka Shirosaki, who I think struggled a little bit in qualifying. I expect him to move up from 10th. Motohiro Katani alongside Katsuya Hirata on row 6 of the grid. Liang Chenyu in his first outing as a Copa Shell driver. He is alongside Phil Kim, who's now in Trofeo Pirelli AM, of course. Alex Fox in 15th position, the Frenchman, joined by Nao Ryu in 16th place. Kidd and Pakho Parkol Ching starting the back row of the grid. I think that as Ching gets to grips with this car, we should see him get more and more competitive. He has a fairly rich history in touring car competition here in Japan and, in fact, all across Asia, in Thailand, in Malaysia. He has been driving touring cars, predominantly front-wheel drive cars, for much of the last decade. And now taking to Ferrari Challenge racing. I think that with time we will see him learn this car and become very competitive. 2x2 formation then for the drivers as they head down what is effectively the back straight towards turn 11, with that extra pit lane on the run to the corner. Dips down into a very, very deep braking zone. It's a great overtaking opportunity, but the opportunity for excitement is just a few moments away. The race is about to begin. The Ferrari 849 Testarossa will make way at the pit entry, and then we'll go racing for 30 minutes plus one lap in the top 3 divisions of Ferrari Challenge Japan. The cars then meander beneath the sadly now former oval here at what was once the twin ring Motegi. It's now the Mobility Resort Motegi, and it's a circuit that should suit these cars well. A lot of fast straight lines, a lot of deep braking zones. I think we're going to see plenty of overtaking and battling in this one. They come through the final corner. Akihiro Suzuki controlling the field. Yusaku Maezawa, always one to fight where he can. Can he challenge for his first ever Ferrari Challenge overall victory? We race at the Mobility Resort Motegi in the Trofeo Pirelli, Pirelli AM and Copa Shell divisions, and it is Suzuki that leads the way through the first corners. Isosaki going for third place there. He's getting into it with Yamatatsu and Kenbo. And it is Suzuki with a comfortable lead for Auto Speciale aboard the 17 at the front. Maezawa in the 83 in second place. And it is Kenbo who has retained third position. So Isosaki not able to clear him. Zed Falcon has moved up to fifth. He's trying to defend up against Yamatatsu. Zed Falcon, who started the year as a Copa Shell AM driver, lest we forget. But 2 incredible drives at the season opener at Suzuka, where all of the classes were together on the same grid, rather necessitated his hasty move up to Trofeo Pirelli AM. And once again, we're seeing the performances. We're seeing the reason why as he moves up to fifth in the early going. Suzuki, though, with the control at the front of the field. Both Akihiro Suzuki and Yusaku Maezawa have experience in major GT events, multi-mark GT events. Of course, Maezawa has raced in the Suzuka 1,000 kilometers. He's raced in the SRO Japan Cup in Ferrari machinery. Akihiro Suzuki has done just about everything there is to do in Japanese motorsport, including the Premier Super GT series. And Suzuki using all of that experience once again to his advantage. Came into this season, I would say, as the heavy title favourite within Trofeo Pirelli. It felt like it was going to be a battle between himself and Motohiko Isozaki for the season, but now, with a shuffled deck and new drivers introduced to Trofeo Pirelli carrying scores over from the divisions they were in previously, I think the battle in the class with the red windscreen banners has just got that little bit more interesting. It was an uneasy start there. I think that Maezawa thought that Suzuki had gone, had to back out of it a little bit there. And at least momentarily, Isozaki was into third place, but too deep there into turn one. Just couldn't get it slowed down for the apex. And you don't need to ask Kembo twice. He takes the inside line back and resumes his third position in the 70 car. Of course, that's new. Kembo now in Trofeo Pirelli. He was in the Copa Shell AM division. He was also driving the car 199. He's now got the number 70 as his assigned number. At the front of the field, Suzuki has already gained almost 2 seconds worth of advantage over Maezawa, while Kembo is a lot closer to the back of that 83 car. Suzuki at the moment looks like he is able to drive away and focus forward, and I don't think Maezawa has quite the same luxury with Kembo, with Isozaki, with Zed Falcon all there behind him. In 8th place on his debut in the Copa Shell division, and perhaps showcasing therefore why he's now in the Copa Shell division, Yi Hung Tan, the Malaysian driver, runs 8th overall. He's ahead of Otsuki in the 157 car. Yasutaka Shirasaki still down in 10th place. This isn't a typical Shirasaki performance. Struggled seemingly for pace in qualifying and is yet to go exploring up the pack. Kidd has made up 1 position. We know he can be right up in the overall top 5 on the right weekend, but we're not quite seeing it at the moment. The most recent race winner in the top 3 divisions of Ferrari Challenge Japan, Cold Max, is there in 7th place. You see him with the tricolor and red car in 7th position, just behind the purple and gold machine of Yamatatsu. Maezawa, meanwhile, driving through the mirrors here with Kembo in the immediate firing line of him. For Maezawa, who still has fairly limited experience, less than 2 years in racing in totality, making his first steps as a driver here in Ferrari Challenge Japan. I think this is going to be quite an adaptation process, because the Ferrari 296 GT3, of course, running to a balance of performance. It has a lot less power, at least in fully BOP'd spec, than the Challenge car, but the Challenge car has less downforce. They drive quite differently and have different strengths and weaknesses, and Maezawa is going to feel quite familiar in that cockpit, but he's going to remind himself that things are a little bit different than what he's been used to over the last couple of seasons. Shirasaki has moved up to P9 and is now behind the Copa Shell leader Yi Hung Tan. Tan up in 8th position then. Just behind them is Otsuki, and then Katani, who we know can be a top 5 challenger, but he's going to work his way into the top 10. He's not there yet. He's got the 2nd place man in Copa Shell just behind him, that being Hirata. You saw there the fastest lap of the race coming in from Suzuki. That time being a 151.7, which is couple of seconds off of what he was doing in qualifying, but it is a very quick lap time all the same, as building that gap out over 2.7 seconds at the last split. I think now out over 3 as they approach the Sector 2 split. Maezawa continues to hold on in second place. It looks like Zed Falcon is under scrutiny here, though, from Yamatatsu for 5th place. Of course, you only score points in Ferrari Challenge Japan within your class, so neither man stands to gain or lose points with an overtake here. But I'd argue that Yamatatsu has less to lose. Of course, he wants to get past Zed Falcon to try and challenge Isosaki for a spot on the Trofeo Pirelli podium. And of course, Zed Falcon also has to worry about Cold Max behind, because they are both in Trofeo Pirelli AM. Trofeo Pirelli, if you're new to the series, the fastest class theoretically of our drivers. And they have red windscreen banners and are represented by red number backgrounds there on the timing tower. The Trofeo Pirelli AM division is the white number backgrounds, and then the yellow representing Copa Shell. So you see there the top 3 in the division: Trofeo Pirelli AM, Kembo, Zed Falcon, Cold Max. Kembo with the fastest lap last time of 51.4. That's the fastest lap of anybody. Of course, you see there a fastest lap displayed for each class on your graphics here, and that's because there is a point available for the fastest lap across all 3 divisions here of Ferrari Challenge Japan. Zed Falcon then still running in 5th place. No massive movers so far in this one. We've had Yu lose 3 positions from his starting place, so unfortunately the driver of the 193, Yang Yu, has fallen back a little bit on his debut within Copa Shell. Scored 2 podiums in the Copa Shell AM race at Okayama and has now moved up into the big one. Yasutaka Shirosaki up into 8th position. He's got the better there of Tun in the 103. They head down towards turn 11, and I think Yi Hang Tun had a slight dalliance with the idea of having a go to the inside line. But even with that overtake, he remains the leader in Copa Shell. Left the inside beckoning there for Yasutaka Shirosaki. Shirosaki up then into 8th position. He has to now try and make up 4.5 seconds to get to the back of Cold Max. Some side-by-side in the back of shot there. That's Katani and Phil Kim going at it for 12th and 13th overall, as well as 4th in Trofeo Pirelli AM. Phil Kim, who of course has been a bit of a front runner for a while now in whatever division we put him in. He was the Copa Shell class champion in 2025 and has been competitive thus far in Trofeo Pirelli AM this season. Got some work to do to try and stand on the podium in this race, though, from back there outside the overall top 10, but also, oh, there's been a moment there. Now, which car is that? The barrier's displaced coming out of turn 4. Safety car board is flashing, so the race will be neutralized. With the barriers clearly out of sorts there, the tyre stacks disjointed, no choice but to make sure that that is re-prepared and made perfectly safe. Have to try and figure out whom that is. I think potentially it might have been Cheng from the rear of the field. Everyone coming across the line now and waiting to see who we might be missing. Indeed, the only driver who hasn't come through the timing beam at the middle sector appears to be Ching, who I think might now be rolling again, actually. I think he's got the car turned around and is now in Sector 2, but all the same, we saw the barriers looking a bit second-hand. That needs to be dealt with. So the field neutralised under safety car. Alex Fox taking up the rear now as the drivers make their way through. You can see there's some debris down on the road that they're doing their best to miss. A testament again to the strength of that Ferrari 296 Challenge car, that it drove away from the scene, but with the barriers displaced, the red flag has been displayed around the circuit. So they feel that this is going to take a few minutes. Ah, the driver is still there. The car is still there. Ching has exited. I thought the car had driven away, but it is still there. And we can see the 166 driver walking away from the scene, but certainly not the debut that you would have wanted. Our newcomer, well, one of our newcomers for this weekend, Paco Parkol Jing, for the Nicole Competizione dealership. And I'm sure we'll see him come back swinging on Sunday. A driver with, again, a decade's worth of racing experience, so not a newcomer as it pertains to the overall racing scene. So I think he'll have no issue composing himself and getting back behind the wheel for Sunday. The crews now begin the process then of reorganising those barriers after what looks to have been a fairly hefty hit to them on the exit of turn 4. Of course, we've alluded to the fact that there are so many deep braking zones at this circuit, tight corners following long straights, but of course with that comes the eternal challenge of getting that power down as quickly as you can, and these Ferrari 296 Challenge cars have extremely advanced driver assist settings, but it still takes a deft touch to get it right, and it's still very possible to get it wrong. These incredibly fast cars, these Ferrari 296 Challenges, I always have an immense respect, especially for the absolute newcomers that join us every season for Copa Shell AM, that they land on their feet and immediately begin racing such a powerful car. Of course, a lot of them will have previously had track day experience and learnt the ropes, but it is an incredibly potent car. And in many cases, it's the driver's first racing car. Which makes it all the more impressive. So the red flag's flying here at the Mobility Resort Motegi with just under half of the race completed. I don't think this will be the longest red flag. I've received confirmation that the driver is okay. Of course, we saw the scene as Ching walked away, but they've heard from him, or the team has heard from him, and he's confirmed that he's okay. Shaken, not stirred. We're expecting, I think, a fairly quick turnaround here from what I'm hearing, but we'll confirm a absolute restart time just as soon as it is available. But Akihiro Suzuki, who was firmly in flow state, I would suggest, at the wheel of that 17 car, he'll be hoping to continue on. You see there Maezawa's car, the 83 machine. You saw there the MZ Supercar project stickers. That is his Tokyo-based supercar collection, which is incredibly impressive and numerous. Some custom one-off builds in amongst it, as well as some of the greatest modern Ferraris. Former drummer, a man who spent 12 days on the International Space Station, and I believe still has the most retweeted message of all time on, well, what was Twitter, now X. Certainly a one-of-one individual, Yusaka Maezawa, and great to have him back in Ferrari Challenge Japan for this weekend. You see there the Naorayu entry of Kenbo. Kenbo in Naorayu colours, as is Naorayu himself. There's Motohiko Isosaki, one of the drivers who you'd expect to be able to keep his composure here and immediately get back into the swing of things. For some of these drivers, it may not be their first red flag, but for a lot of them, this is an unfamiliar scenario, being game and ready to go racing and jumping back into the swing of things immediately off of a red flag and an intermission is not for everybody. It's a certain skill. But I think Isosaki is able to turn it off and turn it back on again pretty easily. Of course, he was last year's Pirelli AM champion in Ferrari Challenge Japan. I must say, seeing the inside of that car's door and realizing that it arrived in yellow rather than his signature green is a bit like finding out Santa Claus isn't real. Some absolutely fabulous liveries here in Ferrari Challenge Japan. Of course, he's been very successful in Ferrari Challenge Isosaki. He debuted in the category in 2022 and was the Copa Shell AM winner at the 2023 Ferrari Challenge Finale Mondiali. He's been racing going back over 20 years now. He's done everything from Formula 3 to the world of endurance racing, and has even taken on the Macau Grand Prix in a team lineup that also included Ferrari alumnus Kamui Kobayashi. Isosaki, a great driver and someone who's often seen racing in Ferrari Challenge in Europe as well. Took a long break from racing before coming back to Ferrari Challenge in 2022, and he just loves the thrill of racing a Ferrari. We talked about that, myself and Motohiko, a couple of years ago, and he just says, racing a Ferrari, it can't get better, you know. He said, as long as I am a racing driver, I will be racing a Ferrari. And that's not just thanks to the cars. I must say, every Ferrari paddock I've ever been to, incredible hospitality laid on for competitors and guests. And just a very nice atmosphere in general, a very welcoming atmosphere to the paddock, and a nice community that gets built among these arch enthusiasts for the prancing horse mark. Of course, one thing that the mobility resort Motegi is known for beyond the circuit itself is the Gran Turismo Cafe, the official coffee spot of the acclaimed racing game series, which is almost 30 years old. Of which, of course, Ferrari is a represented party. Indeed, you can drive the 296 GT3 and the road-going GTB in that game. And indeed, you can bolt on some bits to make it look like a challenge car as well when it comes to the GTB. We look here at the 11 car of Zed Falcon, who was a part-season racer last year. Stayed in Shell AM for the first round at Suzuka. I don't think anyone quite expected this man to jump up as hard as he did. But he was a Copa Shell AM driver who finished 5th overall in race 1 at Suzuka, up against the Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli AM drivers. And then he got himself an overall podium in race 2. And with that came a swift promotion to the Trofeo Pirelli AM division, where he certainly held his own. Got a 5th place overall finish at Okayama in race 1. It was good enough for P4 points in Trofeo Pirelli AM as well. Yamatatsu there with the 77. He and his crew looking on to see what bulletins emerge as it pertains to the resumption of this race. And then we see Cold Max still riding on a high after the overall win that he took last time out in Okayama. The driver who is always the first one to put on a big celebration, the first one to get the cork out of the champagne bottle on the podium, always. And a driver that we know to be one of the most bubbly figures in the paddock, but also someone who's always at his best on tracks that require a brave touch. It seems the closer the walls are, the faster that Cold Max goes. Yasutaka Shirasaki, the Rossa Scuderia representative, he was charging back through the field, and of course, with this red flag, he will be dragged back towards the field, as it were. I think that an overall top 5 is certainly not out of the question for Shirasaki now with this red flag. Of course, it remains to be seen how much racing we get, whether the clock just simply stays at that 17:14 as the cars roll away again, or whether they shorten the race distance at all. It will depend on local curfews and what takes precedent here. From a curfew perspective, we should be okay. Still plenty of daylight and indeed track time left here on Saturday. Mr. Dollar, huh? That was the 103 car, I believe. Indeed, Yi Hang-tun. And now the 157, the Cornes Shiba driver Otsuki. You can see here the teams never take a moment to pause here. Yukihisa wishing us hello from the 157 car. Incidentally, we've received a bulletin that suggests that we hope to be rolling somewhere around or perhaps just before 20 past the hour here. So 20 past 3 local time is what we're looking at. Convert that into your time zone at will. The drivers will have a little bit of time to think and regroup here. They'll also have time, though, to get quite warm in that car. You've seen the fans being blown on them. And certainly with the air temperature having gone up into the mid-20s over the last hour or two, it'll be very hot in these cockpits, even though they are air-conditioned and rather plush compared to race cars of yore. So definitely keeping the drivers cool and keeping them comfortable is all important. There's no point stewing and then not feeling good when you get back out onto the circuit. Katsuya Hirata's 177 car from Auto Cavallino on screen. Of course, getting a look there at the 3-litre V6 engine hiding behind the rear grille. Now getting a look back at the start of this race where Akihiro Suzuki nailed the start. Isosaki briefly up to 3rd position, but he did not remain there. Fighting between Alex Fox and I think that was Hirata, and unfortunately Yuliang Chen having an off-track moment as well. Yes, Takashiro Saki in the black and white machine has been making his way through the field so far, and as I alluded to earlier, I think that's going to continue pretty sharpish once we do go back to racing. There is the Ferrari 849 Testarossa, continuing a trend of cars that, while still incredibly modern and extremely potent in the Ferrari road car stable, present a little shift back in terms of perhaps the styling and the overall vibe. Race will restart at 15:20, confirms race control, as we have a live performance going on in front of Akihiro Suzuki's car. Of course, I think not just to the Testarossa when I allude there to some, if we say, slight old school, but remember the 12 Cylindri as well. That car certainly is a throwback of a machine. Certainly those bystanders with Akihiro Suzuki amusing themselves and getting their moments on television. The distinctive livery of Motohiro Katani on display then. Currently running 12th place, but he'll be aiming to capitalize on this pause and try and work his way up into the top 10. Looked like he was maybe going to hop out of the car for a few minutes. I suppose they've got some 15 minutes before they need to roll, and indeed you can see a few drivers now electing, now that they know that they don't have to move away for a few moments. Phil Kim just behind him, also getting out of the car. Of course, Phil Kim, who's in his 3rd season of racing in Ferrari Challenge Japan. Was initially brought in by a friend of the series, a former competitor in the form of Jay Park. And the South Korean driver has been really competitive and really impressive. Runner-up in his first season in Copa Shell in 2024. Won that title in 2025 and is now a Trofeo Pirelli AM driver. We see there Phil, I think, just working to get his helmet off and give himself a slight reprieve. Coming into this weekend, within the Trofeo Pirelli division, it was Motegi Isosaki with a fractional lead over Akihiro Suzuki, 44.5 to 48. But once the drivers that have been promoted into this division, the Trofeo Pirelli class, are factored into that points table, it will look quite different. In Trofeo Pirelli AM, Yamatatsu was the points leader on 47 points, ahead of Yasutaka Shirasaki on 44. And both parties have now been promoted into Trofeo Pirelli, and with that promotion, their points follow. So in actuality, coming into this race, Motegi Isosaki 48 points, and then Yamatatsu would be second in the standings on 47. With those drivers now in the top class, I think the rest of the season is going to be quite unpredictable. A driver that's really not had the kind of season we expect from him is the man we're looking at here, Kidd, who, while he's driving under that pseudonym for this year, we've seen him race in this series for a number of seasons prior. And we know how fast Kidd can be aboard that 51 car. He will be hoping to capitalize. Now, it is currently 3:07 p.m. for Motegi. Race control said 20 past for a start, but it looks to me like they've got those barriers pretty much where they want them to be. So perhaps they will flash an updated time forward if the marshals have done an even better job than we were anticipating. And certainly lots of very experienced and very well-trained marshals here at the Motegi venue. Of course, the home of the Japanese Motorcycle Grand Prix, and has firmly established itself as one of Japan's premier motorsport destinations. Their marshals know what they're doing. They've got some very exciting and unique vehicles that they utilize here as well. Only time I've seen an S10 pickup outside of the United States. Alex Fox with his mascot on the door, the 139, the Frenchman. Last year's Copa Shell AM champion, the 139 driver. Has been learning the ropes, as it were, in Ferrari Challenge Japan, but has been driving in Ferrari Challenge overall since 2019, and he's become a bit of a globetrotter. He's done some North America, of course he's done a lot of the European series. He was the 2020 Copa Shell AM champion in the European series. And last year marked his first campaign in Ferrari Challenge since 2022. And of course, he went and won the Copa Shell AM class in Japan as well. Not many drivers can claim to have won titles on both or on multiple continents in Ferrari Challenge. But we do see drivers dipping their toes beyond their home region, let's say. Of course, Finale Mondiali is the grand final of it all, and we see drivers from around the world competing at Finale Mondiali. You see the countdown clock for the restart. Less than 10 minutes to go until we do. An example of shall we say, region swapping and globe trotting is also evident in the Ferrari Challenge UK series this year, with the addition of Manuela Gostner to the grid. Great to see her. She'll be racing amongst the UK drivers once again in the Challenge UK series a bit later on today. Sun has risen over Europe, and the drivers from that series will be getting ready to go racing a little bit later on. And that will be available on the Ferrari YouTube channel for your viewing pleasure. The Silverstone Grand Prix circuit also on the cards for Ferrari Challenge this weekend. This weekend, or this season I should say, of course, in Ferrari Challenge Japan is a little bit more compact than usual. We'll be finished with the Ferrari Challenge Japan season by August this year, with the finale falling on the last weekend of July at the Ferrari Racing Days event in Suzuka. That allows the drivers of Ferrari Challenge Japan to make their way to Europe for the headline Ferrari, shall we say, social events of the year, like the Cavalcade. And then, of course, a lot of them will migrate over for Finale Mondiali as well. Getting a look here at the 849 Testarossa. What a fabulous looking machine it is. And so often at these Ferrari Challenge events, of course, with the lion's share of these drivers being ardent Ferrari road-going car enthusiasts as well, you'll see cars like these strewn throughout the paddock. Indeed, it's not uncommon to see the elite hypercars from Ferrari, the Enzos, the F40s, the LaFerraris, and of course, I'm sure very soon a few of these drivers will be taking delivery of the F80 as well. I get the feeling that our roving cameraman is enjoying the fact that he gets to study this car a bit more intricately. Some really classic shapes there. Of course, it's called the Testarossa, so you can draw your own conclusions there, but it reminds me of even some earlier cars than that as well. The earlier 512s. Before the Testarossa nameplate came in. A really compelling modernization of a classic silhouette. The fans watching on with interest then, they'll be looking at the timing screens to confirm the restart time, and it has been confirmed with absolute certainty now that we will be back underway at 20 past. Someone's realised they're on camera. Good afternoon. Some others have not realised they're on camera. So then, once this race resumes, it would seem that we're going to continue on with the full allocated race distance. I think the clock will start ticking as soon as the safety car leads them out of pit lane. One would assume it'll go from red flag to safety car and then to green. And of course, all of these Ferrari Challenge Japan events, a lot of fun to watch. Of course, Ferrari Racing Days is the must-see stop for the Japanese Ferrari enthusiast at Suzuka. Because not only will it be Ferrari Challenge, but of course, you'll see all of the wonderful Clienti cars and the fantastic sounds of cars like the FXXKs and the 599XXs, and even, of course, some classic Formula One fare as well. I recall Ferrari Racing Days Fuji a couple of years ago. We were doing the podium ceremony for this, and I got entirely distracted by the wail of a Ferrari 333 SP. I think if I was on the podium, I'd have dropped my trophy. Of course, that 333 SP for the longest time was maybe not the conclusion, but certainly the most recent chapter of Ferrari's mingling in top-class sports car competition. But boy, hasn't that changed with the 499P. A car that has taken Ferrari back to the promised land, that being victory lane at the Le Mans 24 Hours. And of course, that is going to be a highlight next month when the Ferrari Challenge crews will have the opportunity to compete at Le Mans on race day, on the Saturday before the race at the Le Mans 24 Hours. That is going to be incredibly special. And I do believe that a few of our drivers from this grid, from Ferrari Challenge Japan, will be making that trip. I don't know for sure whom. I'd expect someone like Motegi Isasaki to make the trip. But that will be a very special occasion as well. Not the first time, of course, that Ferrari Challenge has been on that grand stage of the Le Mans 24 Hours, and indeed most every year there are at least a couple of occasions where Ferrari Challenge gets to join the bill of a Grand Prix. We've already done that in Japan this year, with the Japanese Grand Prix as our starting point for this 2026 Ferrari Challenge season. We're about to roll again then with this race. The safety car will be released in just a few seconds. So the lights ablaze on that safety car, and in less than a minute's time, our clock will strike 20 past and we will be rolling again. Race start, incidentally, is under investigation for Yamatatsu in the 77. And the number 11 car also under investigation, that's Zed Falcon. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. They're both under investigation for the start. Whether that was breaking formation, it certainly didn't look like the cleanest formation as the race began. Keep abreast of that as the clock strikes 20 past the hour. There we go. The green light is on. The clock starts to tick down once again. We are back. Although Akihiro Suzuki appears to not be able to get the car started. The yellow flag waving behind Suzuki's car, and there's a rush now, a scramble to get that car back underway. Something is amiss with Akihiro Suzuki, and with that, Maezawa will inherit the lead. That is a big twist. Not the first time this season that Akihiro Suzuki has had something go against him like this. Of course, he didn't make it to the end of lap number 1 at race 1 in Okayama. The technicians immediately on the case here. Let's hope that they can at least get that car rolling again so that we can see Suzuki charge from the back. That would be great entertainment, but it looks to me like there's cause for greater concern. And they're pushing the car back. That looks to me like we're not going to see Suzuki back out there. Akihiro Suzuki potentially going no further in this race unless they can very quickly get things sorted out. He will lose a lap before long, and that will be very painful for his chances at making any inroads back up the order. Being off the safety car queue would be bad enough if they got the car started now, but if you're a lap down, that's effectively it with such a short race. Safety car is coming in this lap. So Yusaku Maezawa, not in the way he'd have wanted, mind you. He has inherited the race lead. Kenbo will be second. Motohiko Isosaki will be third. Zed Falcon, 4th position. Yamatatsu in 5th place. Those two both have a start infringement under investigation. Coldmac, Shirasaki, Tun, Otsuki and Hirata, your top 10. 8th, 9th and 10th place, your top 3 in Copa Shell. That could be interesting to watch. And Maezawa has gone. He realised, I think, that Kenbo behind him wasn't ready to go yet, and he said, never mind, I'll go now. Off goes Maezawa at the front of the field. The driver who, when we last saw him, was a Copa Shell AM competitor. He's moved into GT3 racing. He's really learnt his craft and studied how to get the most out of a race car. And he's come back into Ferrari Challenge Japan, I think, in some ways to prove the point that he really knows his stuff now. And at the moment, he's at the front of the pack. Kenbo up in 2nd place, of course, is the Trofeo Pirelli AM leader. You see the white board over his windscreen, the white banner. Can Isosaki do anything about him to try and challenge Maezawa? Of course, points scored within your class. So for Isosaki, if he wants to get any more than 12 points, he's going to need to get the better of Maezawa. But there again, I feel that Isosaki very rarely makes his championship efforts based on rash decisions. It's consistent point scoring that wins him titles. Zed Falcon defending from Yamatatsu, who was on the offensive there. Coldmax behind them, keeping a close view of this as well, as they run down towards turn 11 once again. Yamatatsu to the inside of Zed Falcon. Looks like he's later on the brakes. Zed Falcon cuts across. Committed, brave defensive driving there from Zed Falcon. who runs second in Trofeo Pirelli AM. Meanwhile, Kenbo, Pirelli AM leader, is quicker, it seems, than Maezawa. He has reeled him back in. Was only a few hundredths quicker on that lap, I grant you, but quicker all the same. I don't think Maezawa is going to have it all his own way. Meanwhile, Akihiro Suzuki now 2 laps down, and still the car not in a position to drive away. At the rear of the field there, we saw briefly Yuliang Chen. Car number 11, Zed Falcon, drive-through penalty for a jump start. He has to drive through, and that's going to put him effectively to the rear of the field, depending on how quickly he takes that penalty. Now, the other car involved in that investigation was the 77 of Yamatatsu. Will Yamatatsu also receive a penalty, or has he managed to avoid the wrath of the stewards? Our 4th place driver, the black and red machine of Zed Falcon, will head down the pit lane at some point over the next 3 laps or so. And that will put him well outside the top 10 and cost him 2nd place in the Pirelli AM standings. Kenbo looking to the inside there in the 70 car. Kenbo certainly not new to racing, having previously competed in Super Takyu and a few other series as well. Certainly it's not his first time here at Motegi. He knows this track. But of course, learning how to get the best out of the Ferrari 296 Challenge at this track is the key. And it seems that he has done just that. Maezawa is under pressure from our Trofeo Pirelli AM leader. Now, Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers won both races overall at Okayama. Could it happen again? We're into the final third of this race with just under 10 minutes left to go. Once the clock hits 0, we will be on the penultimate lap. There'll be one more additional lap tacked on once the clock hits 0. So still quite a long time in this race for Kenbo to find an opportunity, but also for Maezawa to try and hold him off. Maezawa has become pretty adept at competing under pressure. And of course, while Maezawa maybe starts to think about what's going on behind him, Motohiko Isosaki is sneaking into contention as well. The driver of the 55, late on the brakes there into turn 10. I don't think it's long before he is trying to find a way past Kenbo. Into turn 11 they go once again. Zed Falcon leading a queue of cars in 4th place, but we know that he is due a visit to the pit lane, and will he do so this time? Yes, indicator on. And Zed Falcon heads into the pits. Kenbo looked like he was under significant pressure from Isosaki there as they exited the final corner. I wouldn't be surprised if Isosaki is not quite close enough, actually, to a move at turn 1. I thought he might be on for it. But Isosaki threatens to move forward as Zed Falcon drops back. He will exit in 14th position. And that, more importantly for him, is 6th place among the Copa Shell AM drivers. Never mind, it's 16th. He's at the very back of the running order. That will be extremely painful for Zed Falcon, and a near impossibility of making his way further up the field to get himself any points. As it stands, it looks like P6 in Pirelli AM for him. Here's the battle then for 4th position, now being headed by Yamatatsu, with Coldmax and Shirasaki also in the mix. Shirasaki, who, remember, started in 10th position, is now up there in P6. So he's been making good progress. Off the racing line by a country mile there was Motohiro Katani. He's under pressure from Naurayu now. He is in the same 10th position that he was at the start of the lap, so he's not really lost any ground, but taking alternative lines, to say the least. Up ahead of them as well, looked like a very compelling battle for the lead in Copa Shell. You see that at the back of shot. That is Yi Hang-tun. Under scrutiny here from Hirata. Katsuya Hirata, who started in 12th place, he's worked his way through the field well and reaping the rewards of that. Motohiro Katani trying to go around the outside of Otsuki, to no avail for now at least. Otsuki, Hirata, increasingly brave as he looks to the inside at turn 3. You can see the aggressive shapes being thrown from behind. Make no mistake, Hirata-san, Yi Hang-tun can see you in the mirrors. A 1:51.1 last time by from Kenbo, and that is the fastest lap that anyone has set in the Trofeo Pirelli AM class, but moreover it's the fastest lap of anybody in this race. He has been within half a second of Maezawa effectively since this race restarted. He was slightly caught napping by Maezawa on the restart after the red flag, but other than that, Kenbo has looked a little bit quicker, as again brave on the brakes there was Hirata. 177 driver, eager to try and claim a full haul of points here in the Copa Shell division. He had a 3rd and a 2nd place finish in the Shell AM races at Okayama. He's one of the drivers that's been promoted up into Copa Shell, as of course as Yi Hang-tun, and clearly that decision was the correct one, because already they're fighting for the win in Copa Shell. Naurayu there has, I think, potentially got the measure of Otsuki in the background. Not quite yet. Oh, yes, he has. He's gotten past Otsuki, and Otsuki pushed out there 2 positions, 3 positions lost, because Phil, Kim, and potentially Kid have also got past. Indeed, Kid has gotten past as well, so Otsuki has dropped down and indeed off the podium in Copa Shell with that. Naurayu has moved into 3rd place in Copa Shell. Hirata keeping a watching brief then, but oh, he ran out a bit too wide there, trying to use all of the track and more, and squeezes Motohiro Katani. Katani won't be best pleased with that. That would have been heart in mouth for both parties, I think, once Katani realised what was happening. Motohiro Katani, 53-year-old racer. He's driven in Ferrari Challenge Japan before this year, back when we were using the 488 Challenge Evo. Has been a winner on 4 occasions in class, and has some single-seater experience as well. A pretty well-versed driver, but a driver that would not have liked being 2 wheels on the grass for sure. Well, Isosaki has been brought into that battle for the lead, but now Yamatatsu is there as well. Incidentally, still no indication of a drive-through penalty for Yamatatsu, so I think he got away with that investigation scot-free. Oh, there's been a moment. Is that Naorayu? A big debris field. It's Katani. It's Motohiro Katani, who has had a moment there. And a big, big debris field. Once again, the red flag flies. This time, I'm sure, to a permanent end for this race with so little time left to run. That is certainly a dramatic conclusion, not the conclusion that we wanted. Maezawa, as much pressure as he was under, should now be the race winner. I don't believe that we would restart under normal circumstances here with so little time left on the clock. Of course, the first consideration is the safety of Motohiro Katani, but we know these 296 challenge cars to be able to protect incredibly well. Maezawa leads them back. There is Motohiro Katani. Always a relief to see a driver walk away, especially when you see all of that debris down. It's most interesting quite how that happened, whether that was all on his own or whether there were greater forces at play. But either way, his team will have a lot of work to do. If they can't get that car ready, there's always the potential to simply roll out a different chassis. Seen that before in Ferrari Challenge. Race will not restart. I was just wondering there, with everyone queuing up, whether or not potentially they would be restarting, but that would be unusual given the length of time that's left in the race. And it has now been confirmed that the race will not restart, and therefore, I think he maybe just found out. Yeah, he knows. Yusaku Maezawa, for the first time, is an overall race winner in Ferrari Challenge Japan. On his return to the series where he cut his teeth and honed his craft, he has proven to be victorious, and boy do I hope that this is not a one-off return for Maezawa. A very lively personality, someone who just loves his racing. And I think information being spread around that this race won't resume. There's your confirmation that Trofeo Pirelli winner is Yusaku Maezawa. Kenbo, your Pro-Am winner. And that's Kenbo that we see on screen. And Yi Hang-tun will be the winner in the Copa Shell class on his debut in the Copa Shell category. So he's been bumped up And with that has come a win at the first attempt in Copa Shell. Everyone else is out of the car. Yusaku, it's time to celebrate, my friend. I mean, he's doing so anyway. But Motegi, Isosaki, Kembo, and Yamatatsu and co all chatting in the background there. You see Isosaki hydrating. There is a very happy Maezawa-san. I don't think he's taken an overall win in any race before, so this is going to be a new and exciting moment for him. He will no doubt be in discussion with Kai Cozzolino down there. I'm sure that he would have loved to take the checkered flag in the conventional circumstance, but that win is going to hit all too heavy and will be so welcomely received by him on the podium, celebrating there and mutual respect shared between himself and Motegi Isosaki. Yi Hang-tun, the winner in the Copa Shell division, who was eventually in 7th overall, ahead of Hirata and Naorayu, who will be, I think, pretty pleased that he managed to get some places at the very end there. Getting himself a podium in the Copa Shell division. There you see the damage to the Armco barrier on the run to turn 3. That must have been a pretty hefty hit. Thankfully, we've seen Motohiro Katani out of the car. The crew's hard at work to get the track ready again, as the crew at Mobility Resorts Motegi always do. Incredible service and incredibly unique service cars. I've seen that thing before in operation here at Motegi, but it never gets old, does it? The Ferrari 849 Testarossa safety car returning to the paddock.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the race winner of the Ferrari Challenge Japan Pirelli class, Yusaku Maezawa. Congratulations. おめでとうございます.
Thank you. ありがとうございます.
So 2 years ago, you were racing here in Ferrari Challenge Japan. As a Shell AM driver, you were a beginner. And after 2 years, you come back in the top category in the Pirelli and you win it in your first race. How do you feel? 本当ね、2年前はシェルアマカテゴリーでスタートしてね、本当デビュー戦ということで、2年後にトップカテゴリー、このピレリでの優勝のお気持ちを聞かせてください。
数々のラッキーはありましたけれども、久しぶりに復活したフェラーリチャレンジで、しかもシェルアマからいきなりピレリクラスでやりなさいって言われて、すごくドキドキしたレースであったんですけれども、しっかり結果としてはこうした形で残って本当に良かったです。
Yeah, of course. I mean, it was a lot of pressure from my side. You know, after 2 years, they told me that I'm going to be up to the Pirelli class because obviously I was racing a lot in GT3 cars and they valued my speed. So that's why I'm racing now. But I'm super happy to close this victory. So we have another race tomorrow, race 2. Do you think you can win it? 明日のレースに向けての意気込みをお願いします。
もちろんまた表彰台狙って頑張ります。はい。
He will aim for the podium for tomorrow's race and keep cheering on. Thank you. Back to you.
Well, how great is it to see such a happy man in Yusaku Maezawa?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, and also please welcome the race winner of the Pirelli M class, Ken Bo. Congratulations. So last race, you were actually in a lower category, and they valued your speed, so they put it up in the Pirelli class, and now you win it again. 前回までね、カテゴリーがシェルクラスから今回はまたさらにレベルアップして、ピレラムアマに、上がりました。そしてなんとまた優勝ということになりますが、すごいですね。
いやもうできすぎです。みんな速いので上のクラスですごい不安だったんですけど、レースまとめられてよかったです。
Yeah, for me, it's an ideal situation. I really wasn't expecting it, but I'm super happy to have won it. The level is really high. So tomorrow we have another race, race 2. Do you think you can win it for again? And then you're actually going very close to the overall victory as well. 明日レース2があります。今回はもちろんピレリアマクラスの優勝でしたが、なんか総合優勝もなんか取れるんじゃないかという、雰囲気が出てましたけど、いかがですか？明日に向けての意気込みお願いします。
ドライの走行経験が足りないので、今日の決勝のレースをまたデータ見直して明日の予選決勝につなげられればいいと思ってます。はい。
Yeah, I still don't have much experience in the dry conditions because, yesterday was raining a lot in free practice, but I'm happy really to have driven under dry conditions in this race, and now I think I'll go for a victory tomorrow. おめでとうございました。
ありがとうございます。
And at last, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the race winner of the shell category, Yihang Tan. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, last race, you were in the Shell AM. You were too fast, so now they up you the category. You went to the Shell category, and then you win it again. The crazy fight out there with Hirata-san. Tell me how you feel. 前回までね、シェルアマカテゴリーで今回やはり早かったんで、シェルクラスにクラスを上げられまして、なんとまた優勝ということになります。平田選手とも非常に熱いバトルでしたね。
Just happy to win the race. Yeah, hopefully we can do it again tomorrow.
そうですね、とにかくもう本当に嬉しいし、勝ててよかったし、また明日に向けて、優勝できたいと思います。So for tomorrow's race, race 2, I know you didn't have much practice in the dry conditions yet, and I think it's your first time here in Motegi, and actually it's probably your third time in a race car, right, to actually race. So for tomorrow's race, please tell me what your strategy will be for tomorrow. なんとね、このイハン選手はレース人生なんと3回目のレースで、今回2回優勝しています。あまりねドライコンディションでまだ走れてはないと思うんですけれども、ちょっと明日のレースに向けての意気込みをお願いします。
Hopefully I can repeat what I do today. That's it. Just the same P1 is good.
そうですね、もうレース2はもう本当に今日、の結果をまた明日再現して優勝を狙いたいということです。以上です。Thank you very much. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. 以上です。ありがとうございました。またレース2で会いましょ
う。Well, thank you, Kai Cozzolino, with his seamless bilingual abilities, giving us the reactions there to the first race of the day, or the first race of the weekend for Trofeo Pirelli, Pirelli AM and Copa Shell. Of course, they will be racing on Sunday, as will the Copa Shell AM standalone grid. And we can expect a lot of excitement from those races once again. We will be heading up very shortly to the podium to celebrate what has been a great day, and indeed, I think some drivers hoping that those champagne bottles have been on ice. We've creeped up temperature-wise well into the middle 20s. And a nice cold beverage would be welcome, perhaps even if it is sprayed into your face by one of your friends. It's a decent lick of a walk, I think, to our podium situation for here at Motegi, so I think it might be a couple of minutes before we get everybody where they need to be, but they will be celebrating with aplomb. You can see the gathered masses. All of the drivers, families, friends, cohorts who will be enjoying an evening's entertainment and hospitality, I'm sure, here at the track in Ferrari's area, and from there they will return on Sunday to see what unfolds. We're now half distance, halfway through through the championship in Ferrari Challenge Japan. 5 races in the books, 5 races to go. And between the promotions of various drivers into higher divisions and some of the twists and turns we've seen so far, I can't really make an accurate or at all confident prediction for any of these classes. I think we're going to have a really thrilling battle. So I think that we are, yes, podium bound. The drivers then are ready to celebrate. And we should be starting with Trofeo Pirelli. Of course, no overall podium, as it were, so it is separated into the classes. Yamatatsu welcomed to the 3rd step of the podium. A good start to his career as a Trofeo Pirelli driver. Motegi Isozaki, more points on the board. He will remain the points leader in Trofeo Pirelli. But what a return for Maezawa-san. Yusaku Maezawa, who left us at the end of 2024 as a competent, developing driver, has honed his craft in GT3 Ferrari machinery. Couldn't resist the opportunity to come back, though, and try the 296 Challenge car. And you know what? I think he might be back after this weekend, no matter what happens on Sunday. Let's observe the national anthem.
Trofeo Pirelli クラスのプレゼンターは大会組織委員長飯田哲也様です。よろしくお願いいたします。それでは3位の選手からお渡しをいただきましょう。第3位、今回からクラスチェンジになりました最高峰クラスで3位表彰台獲得です。山立選手おめでとうございます。
Yamatatsu presented his 3rd place trophy, and Motegi Isozaki to receive his 2nd place trophy, but the man with the biggest smile this side of Suga is Yusaku Maezawa.
続きまして見事優勝を果たしました前澤友作選手にはトロフェオピレリ賞が贈られます。
His self-branded team, of course, the Maezawa racing outfit. He adorns, or his car adorned with those colors. He's representing the Cornes Nagoya dealership. They will receive a Copa Dealer trophy for his efforts. And he also receives, of course, as a Trofeo Pirelli class winner, the Pirelli P0 trophy as well. we will take our pictures, and then the next step will involve those 3 bottles stood waiting for their drivers. One thing that I really love about Ferrari Challenge is it's very rare that you see a driver without a beaming smile on the podium on the top step. They're arch enthusiasts, everyone in this paddock, and when they get these moments, they do tend to lap it in there and soak it all in. Trophies down, bottles up. Let's spray our champagne. Next up then, the Trofeo Pirelli AM podium will arrive. And of course, the driver who was second overall, challenging for that race lead, Kembo, will stand atop that podium, joined by Kidd and Cold Max. And all pseudonym top 3. Cold Max, of course, who was an overall winner last time out at Okayama. That full haul of points for him, useful for the championship, I'm sure. And 2 drivers who've been pushed up a division and taken victories on the first attempt in both Kembo and Yi Hang-tun in the Copa Shell division. Really impressive scenes from all parties here. Kembo had been having a perfect season to that point in Copa Shell, and he'll continue to carry those points over from Copa Shell into Trofeo Pirelli AM. And he could well be in the hunt for the championship, as Cold Max makes his way to the podium, along with Kidd. And Kembo gets a rapturous welcome to the top step. The team representative from Cornish Sheba joins the podium and will now observe the national anthem.
Trofeo Pirelli アマクラスのプレゼンターはフェラーリジャパン株式会社モータースポーツディレクター佐藤達也様です。よろしくお願いいたします。
So then time for our Trofeo Pirelli AM presentations. Kidd receives his P3 trophy. Cold Max with yet another trophy, second place on this occasion. But Kenbo showing pace to challenge for overall victories is once again a winner in class, this time in Trofeo Pirelli AM. After dominating the early part of the season for Copa Shell, he's now been declared a Trofeo Pirelli AM driver, which means for the first time he receives a Pirelli trophy.
それではフォトセッションを行ってまいりますので、プレゼンターの皆様もお入りください。そしてドライバーの皆さんは中央に集まってください。お願いいたします。それではですね、まずは正面のギャラリーの皆さんに向かって笑顔でフォトセッションを行ってまいりましょう。スマホを構えて皆さんお待ちください。そして皆さんどうぞ大きな拍手をお願いいたします。
Our top three then pose for pictures. Next up, the champagne. My money, as it pertains to the corks, is always on Cold Max. I think there was a desire to celebrate ASAP going on there. Oh no, Cold Max didn't win the fight to get the bottles of spray in. That's a rare sight in Ferrari Challenge Japan. Our top three from Trofeo Pirelli AM will exit stage left. Next up will be the celebration for the Copa Shell division. You see some of the great and good there gathered at the podium. And we will see the Copa Shell celebrations very shortly. Copa Shell podium up next. And they will be ready to celebrate soon, I think, and we should be seeing that one as well. It'll be a first win for Yi Hang-tun. And a well-deserved one at that. It's always daunting, I'm sure, to be told, yeah, we're actually going to put you up against the quicker guys now. You're just too quick. But that was the instruction received, and he took it well. One of the coaches that we saw down there by the podium was last year's Trofeo Pirelli champion, Sotomuto, who's now doing some coaching here in the paddock. And I do hope we see him back in a car in Ferrari Challenge at some point. Very impressive driver. Of course, came into the series last year a round late and ended up winning the title anyway. Such was his performance. We now head back to the podium then, and Copa Shell up next. Now Urayu taking the third step of the podium. Second step of the podium today going to Hirata, who put in a really good drive and looked like he might be able to challenge for the win in Copa Shell, but Katsuya Hirata will be eager to build upon that and try and be on the top step on Sunday. But for now, Yi Hung-tun, the Malaysian racer, is on top. Man of few words, very focused. And he will continue, I'm sure, to represent European version very well now that he's been bumped up to Copa Shell.
Congratulations, Yi Heng-ten is the winner. おめでとうございます。それではトロフィーの贈呈に参りましょう。
Yi Hung-tun then set to receive his first Copa Shell winner's trophy, and with it, given that he'll take his results from the Shell AM category into Copa Shell, he will be the championship leader in Copa Shell coming out of this event, out of this race. And he could be very difficult to beat for the championship in the Copa Shell division. But I'm sure that the likes of Hirata and Naorayu will be studying before leaving the track today with their driver coaches to see what maybe they could have done differently to try and find that edge over Yi Hung-tun for Sunday. And with that, for the final time, the photographers prepare to take photos down on the podium for today. The champagne will spray, and then we'll get a little look at the highlights of this race. Both races today with interruptions. Of course, we had a red flag to end the race on this occasion, but also a red flag in the middle of the race from which we restarted. We had a long safety car in the Shell AM race as well. It's been a dramatic day in Ferrari Challenge Japan. And on days like this, where the circumstances of the race around you continues to throw curveballs, I'm sure that champagne tastes all the sweeter when you earn it. So then our Copa Shell podium exits the frame. And now we prepare to do it all again on Sunday here in Ferrari Challenge Japan. We're going to get a look back at what went down there in race number 2 of the day, race 1 of the weekend for Trofeo Pirelli, Trofeo Pirelli AM, and Copa Shell. ピレリアマクラス、そしてシェルクラスによるレース1、そしてシェルアマクラスによるレース2をお届けします。明日もどうぞ皆さんお楽しみに。I said that with great confidence. We should be taking a look at the highlights here in just a few seconds. In fact, let's go there now. So a good start from Akihiro Suzuki, our pole sitter at the start of this race. Returning driver Yusaku Maezawa was in second place. Isosaki with a decent launch moved up to third, but then lost that time at the first corner, ended up falling back behind. A move from Yasutaka Shirasaki, he was on the charge up through the field, but then a big incident there. That was for series newcomer aboard the Patco Parkol Chinka, the Nicole Competizione entry, the 166 entry. And then drama after the red flag. Akihiro Suzuki not able to get the car launched, and after a little bit of consideration, Yusaku Maezawa says, well, I guess I'm leading this race then. And he would continue to lead the race under a great deal of scrutiny from those behind him. It was certainly a hard-fought victory, and there were some hard-fought battles all through the field, one of which involved Motohiro Katani, who unfortunately came unstuck on the approach to turn 3. Big contact, lots of damage to the car. He was okay. Meanwhile, Yusaku Maezawa, the man who's been to the International Space Station, how apropos that he's over the moon after his first win in Ferrari Challenge Japan. A big bright smile and a desire to do it all again on Sunday, I'm sure, for Yusaku Maezawa. The race winner, Motohiko Isosaki, taking second in the class in Trofeo Pirelli. Yamatatsu and Shirasaki finishing the race as well, but unfortunately no finish for Akihiro Suzuki. That will be a big drop of points, and given he was leading the race up until that return from red flag, he will be bitterly disappointed, and the team will be working hard to make sure that that does not happen again. Kenbo, your winner in the Pirelli AM class. Cold Max, Kotani, Phil Kim, Kidd, and Zed Falcon, the finishers in the Pirelli AM class. Of course, Zed Falcon getting himself a drive-through penalty for a start infringement. That unfortunately took him out of podium consideration. Yi Hang-tun winning in Copa Shell. Hirata, Otsuki, Naorayu, Liang Chen-yu, Alex Fox, and Patco Parkol Ching the order, although Ching, of course, not taking the restart after causing that red flag. So just the 6 finishers, but Yi Hang-tun debuting as a Copa Shell driver and immediately taking a win, marking himself as a contender in the championship there for sure. What a day of racing here in Ferrari Challenge Japan. We do it all again on Sunday. The timings for the races will be the same. So make sure you join us for more thrills from the Mobility Resort Motegi. It's going to be a great Sunday in Ferrari Challenge Japan.